Hello everyone, Neil Tappin here from Golf Monthly and welcome to Worplesdon Golf Club and this video which we're going to take a look at the top 10 golf courses in the UK and Ireland. So I'm going to be joined by Rob Smith and Jeremy Ellwood who run our top 100 courses panel, and Mike Harris who's the editor of Golf Monthly, and we're going to discuss what makes these 10 golf courses so special. We're going to run it through from 10 through to 1, so make sure you watch through to the end to find out what comes out on top. Right, let's get started. Okay, so we're going to start at number 10 and work our way down to number 1. And actually, we'll start with 10 and 9 together because they are the same venue, the same golf club, but two separate golf courses. Mike, you're going to kick us off, and we're looking at the two Sunningdales here.
We are indeed. And interestingly, for a number of years, we had the new ranked above the old, and I think that most people would agree that the new is a harder golf course.
I would.
It's a really, really strong test of golf. If you're not on your game, it will really find you out. But actually, we promoted the old ahead of the new. I think we did it at the last rankings, and it stayed ahead this time. And I think we've done that just because it is such a delightful 18 holes of golf. Even if you're playing not the best, you will still really, really enjoy the old. There are some incredible holes on there. I just think the ambiance of the old, it's such a charming golf course. The new as well, again, some amazing holes. That sweeping par 5, where big hitters like you sort of take it over the corner, the rest of us go out to the left. The par 3 before that, which is the 4th, I think. Sorry, the 5th, and then the par 5 is the 6th. Yeah, that's right. And then such a great run of holes around the turn as well. The 10th, lovely par 3 that goes back to the halfway hut. In fact, both of the 10ths go to the halfway hut, don't they? And of course, no visit to Sunningdale is complete without a stop at the halfway hut for a sausage sandwich and a drink of your choice. But I think together, it's the best 36 holes comfortably in GB&I, possibly in the world, and it's a wonderful place to visit.
I was going to say, what's unique about Sunningdales? That you've got two golf courses that are very similar in terms of, obviously they're similar in terms of sitting at 10 and 9 on our list, but they're quite different actually to play. As you said, Mike, one of them's I'd say a lot harder than the other one, but they do play quite different even though they're on the same bit of land.
It's odd because I find the same at the Berkshire. You have two that are side by side. I think the blue is substantially tougher than the red. Maybe it's because of the pars and so on, but it seems to be a feature of the Surrey Berkshire borders that you've got these fabulous 36-hole venues like that.
So let me put you all on the spot. If you were going to play one of those Sunningdale courses tomorrow, but only one of them, which one would you go for, Jez?
I'd go for the new because I didn't play a lot of good golf last year, but one of my best rounds was on the new, so it's fresh in the mind. But I particularly like that 5th and 6th back-to-back combo, which is probably two of the best back-to-back holes in the UK.
Oh, there you go. Mike?
It would depend on how I was playing. If I'm playing well, I'd like to play on the new because it's a great test of golf. But if I'm not playing so well, I think it's a pretty relentless golf course. So I'd opt for the old, which I think is a bit more user-friendly, definitely. I think you're going to have an enjoyable round whether you play well or not.
And I would opt for the old as well, just at the moment, for fairly obvious reasons, particularly as we're recording this in the sort of height of winter really, and I'm not getting a great deal of distance, so the old will keep a smile on your face the whole way, whereas the new might actually start to make you frown.
How about you?
I'd go for the old too.
Okay.
I'd go for the old, but regardless, as you said, I'd definitely take a bit of time at the halfway hut.
Yeah, absolutely.
Whichever one I play. Okay, so number 8 on our list is Royal Portrush. Rob, are you looking at Royal Portrush for us?
Yeah. I first played it back in the late 80s, early 90s, I think, and fell in love with it straight away. It's a classic links, but has got some fabulous dunes as well. It's a Harry Colt course, and I'm a big fan of Colt, as many people obviously. He's one of the greatest architects of all time. It was always a great course anyway, and it kind of came back even higher in the public eye when it got the Open back 4 years ago, 2019. And of course, Mackenzie Niebert came in and did some changes as well, including 2 new holes, which is quite important because it had a slightly weaker finish. So it's kind of come up in our rankings based on the fact we got 2 fabulous new holes as well. So you had the 5th and the 16th, which were glorious in the first place. You've now got the 2 new holes as well. it's an absolute cracker from start to finish now.
But
And
hard,
of course,
hard as well, though.
very hard,
Rob?
as evidenced by the fact it's got the opening already again back in 2 years' time. So,
Yeah.
you know, everyone loved it. The 2019 Open was a huge success, and the public acclaim and the worldwide acclaim was so great that it's going back there straight away.
Right, moving on. We need to get to course number 7, Jez, on our list, which is Carnoustie.
Carnoustie is, people will often say about Carnoustie, it's a fantastic golf course. The views are not great. You know, it's enclosed by houses, and it's not a great sea view golf course. But I think bunkering and burns are what Carnoustie is all
The
about.
two
And
Bs.
they're always in the wrong place for where you as a golfer tend to hit it. Some fairways have bunkers both sides in the driving zone, some just on one side, and then you get this added factor of the burns, not just on the closing stretch, but on early holes like the third, where I think now some of the big hitting guys can get pretty close to the green on the third cut or even knock it on.
Yeah.
But for mere mortals, you're factoring in having to clear that burn on your second shot. And I just think it's such a brilliantly bunkered golf course, and then as tough a finish as you'll encounter anywhere.
Yeah, I think that you're right there, Jez. That feeling that with some of these golf courses, the ones where maybe they don't have the breathtaking views of a Royal Portrush or another one that appears on our list a bit further down, they do then need to have that amazing bunkering, that definition that you get off the tee at places like Carnoustie.
Yeah, and it is. A lot of people say it's the best bunkered golf course in the UK and I probably wouldn't disagree with that.
Yeah. Right, so on to number 6 on our list. And Rob, you're going to take a look at Royal Dornoch. But before you talk about the golf course itself, just talk a bit about the club, because I've no doubt in my mind it's one of the friendliest courses I think I've ever been to. Just so you get that sense immediately as you arrive that you're sort of almost like a member of the club for the day.
Well, you certainly do, and that's because going back, it was a real pilgrimage to go there. Again, going back some time when I first went, you had to take the ferry from Inverness. You didn't have to, but it was the quickest way was to get the ferry across the Cromarty Firth. And therefore, once you got there, it was a very special place to go to. And because it was off the beaten track, it was, of course, a little less stuffy than some of the other clubs, and has always, therefore, been welcoming as a result.
Yeah, and it's welcoming, but then you get out onto the golf course and it's a fantastic place to play golf. Tell us a bit about the golf course.
Well, the setting is just dreamy, isn't it? It's so remote. You've got kind of almost like a two-level thing working your way down to the shore.
Yes.
And you look back across, and it's just a traditional out and back, some super tough holes. If you play in a strong wind, you might really find it quite tough. But of course, like elsewhere, it's improving all the time too. So since the last rankings, they have a new 7th hole, par 4, which has been realigned to kind of open up the views across the Firth more and make it even more sexy to look at as you play. They're working currently as we speak on the 8th to build a new tee to create the views again and then open that up as well. So like many places, not resting on it, it's already very high laurels, it's improving all the time.
Yeah, and it's, as I say, a brilliant place to play golf. Okay, so course number 5 on our list is Royal Birkdale. Rob, another open venue, beautiful golf course to look at. What makes it so good?
Well, looking back at the rankings since we've been going, which is about 20 years now, this has been the leading course in England the whole way through. I was lucky enough to play there again last summer, and I already knew it was great before I went, but going back, I just couldn't believe how good it is. It's got 18 strongholds all the way through. It's got fantastic dunes for England, particularly for the northwest, which is a cracking coastline all the way through, but it has got some of the best dunes. I just loved it from start to finish. It's also super friendly, strangely enough. Now, for an open championship venue, members are very friendly and welcoming, as are the management team. I was absolutely blown away going back again.
When last time I was there for the Open, which would have been the year that Jordan Spieth won, I remember standing on the first tee and thinking this is possibly the most intimidating shot ever. It's a dog leg right to left, there was wind all the way off the left-hand side.
Both ways, actually.
Yeah.
Really,
Yeah.
for most golfers, you've got to hit it out there and then you've got to draw it and then fade it, which is not.
So let me ask you, what makes it such a good golf course then?
Well, I mean, I think it was rerouted many years ago to play along the valleys rather than up and over the hills, and probably for the older English links courses, it has some really impressive dunes, and you play along valleys between them, and every hole is almost like a wow factor.
Yeah.
I think it's a really fair golf
That's the
course
point, it's
as
fair.
well.
Yeah.
You don't tend to get those, sort of quirky links lies that you might get at somewhere like a Royal St George's, perhaps.
When it comes to ranking a golf course for the top 100 courses in Golf Monthly, you don't just take a look at just the quality of the test and design. There are some other factors as well. Take a look at the video that's on that subject as well to know more. Okay, so for number 4 on our list, we're going back north of the border to Scotland. Mike, Muirfield.
Yeah, well, it's an incredible golf course. We had it number 1 for a number of years, and although it's at number 4, it is still an epic golf course. I think the thing about Muirfield that everybody acknowledges is strength of its routing. It's 2 concentric nines, so you are never playing in the same direction 2 holes in a row, which means that the wind is constant. There's always a wind there at Muirfield. It's constantly shifting. You've really got to take that into account. A very, very strong test. It's a hard golf course for sure.
Yeah. There's
some really enjoyable holes, but it's a difficult golf course for sure. Again, a lot of great bunkering there.
So we're staying in Scotland for number 3. We're going to go to Turnberry, Jez, which has always been one of the most beautiful golf courses in the UK and Ireland. Yeah. But tell us a bit about the test that you find when you get there.
Well, it was always regarded as the most visually picturesque of the open event. I know it's not on the rota at the moment, but picturesque of the open rota venues because it's so close to the coastline there in Ayrshire, and the front 9 in particular, and the turn, you're hugging the shore all the way. And I think there was perhaps some concern when someone came in 2016 to start doing some changes. You know, what can you do to improve this already fantastic
the masterpiece
campus?
of a golf course. How do you improve it?
And you know, particularly when you found out he was going to be doing holes like 9, 10 and 11, which were already right on that rocky shore, and then the results that he managed to create proved that it was all justified, because it just raised the whole thing a notch on the old scale, and it is just an immense experience. And he's also improved holes on the back 9 that traditionally were perhaps a little bit weaker. You know, you now play the 14th is now a par 5, coming back up to where the old 9th fairway was. That's making far better use of the land than when the 9th was this kind of unusual par 4 with the hogs back fairway. And the whole thing has just gone up several notches.
I think it explains why we do this process every couple of years, because the best golf courses in the UK and Ireland, they are evolving, aren't they? They're constantly evolving and changing. And as you said, you can take a masterpiece like Turnberry and make it even better. I mean, few people would have thought that was even possible.
Well, yeah, particularly when you found out what holes he was going to be tinkering.
Yeah.
So, but it was a job well done.
Okay, so number 2 is St Andrews. The old course at St Andrews had to be high up on the list. Of course it did. Mike, tell us a bit about St Andrews.
I think everybody knows it's the most famous golf course in the world, home of golf, and when you play there, you are walking in the footsteps of everybody, the who's who of the game, from old Tom Morris to Jack Nicklaus, Tiger Woods, and it's an incredible experience. What I really like about St Andrews is it is playable for all levels of golfer. You've got to do quite well to lose a golf ball. You probably would have to hit it in one of the wind bushes that are sort of around, although they've taken out quite a lot of the winds. It's pretty difficult to lose a golf ball.
Yeah, I've always found that it was not fairly, I'd say fairly straightforward-ish to get an okay score.
Yeah.
Quite difficult to get a really good score, because you've got to be a bit more ambitious and a bit more aggressive.
And you've got to be putting well, because you are going to have a lot of long putts.
Yes, mega
big
putts.
Double greens, and some subtle movements in some of them. And you think that the really hard holes are hard, but then you can easily get caught out. I remember playing in a medal, was going really quite nicely. I think I was like 1 or 2 over. Stood on the 12th tee and had an 8. What is a short?
It feels like it's a potential birdie opportunity.
But St Andrews gives you decisions to make, and it's sort of, I really should have hit driver, but I hit hybrid, hit it into one of the fairway bunkers. I think took 2 to get out. Then I don't know, the red mist came down, and then you've got that green with the step in it. It's there are plenty of places to come a cropper, but it is quite user friendly.
It is.
If it's any consolation, Paul Casey came a cropper there, didn't
he?
The year when Oosthuizen won the Open, he made a hash.
I think that what sums it up playable for all, the very first time I played there, on the 2 par 3s, I had a 2 on one and a 13 on the other.
Consistency has always been a
It's always
hallmark.
been like that.
Yeah, but a great place to play golf.
So before we move on to the top ranked course on the list, what's it like to play the 1st and the 18th at St Andrews?
Still, for me, I mean, I must have played the old course 20 plus times. It's still a magical feeling. Stood on the first tee, hitting down there, and then the journey up 18 is, is amazing. Walk over the bridge,
Waving to the imaginary crowd as you go.
You've got to have a photograph on the bridge. Particularly if it's your first time and if you're taking friends. It's a really special experience. And then walking up there with obviously RNA Clubhouse and Hamilton Grand behind it. I know, Neil, you had a room in Hamilton.
Yeah, it was my hall of residence at university.
What a room with a view, quite literally. And of course, you've got all these sort of famous buildings, Rusacks, and all the others up the right-hand side. Normally, you've got a crowd behind the 18th green, which is it's pretty inspiring, can be a little bit daunting, but yeah, it's just an incredible place to play golf, and I would recommend it for everybody. Put it on and it's probably on everybody's bucket list, but it is well worth the pilgrimage.
It is, it really is. Okay, so that leads us to number 1 on our list, and for this one we're going back over to Northern Ireland and Royal County Down. Who has played Royal County Down most recently?
I've played it most recently. I've also been right next door to it most recently and not played it. So,
So Jez, right, you've got on this list the best inland courses, the best links golf courses. Why does this one stand out for you?
Well, I think a lot of people think it's the best golf course in the world. That's always been touted as being up there. I don't know whether I agree with that or not, but it's, as a setting for golf, it's surrounded by mountains, you've got the sea, you've got the iconic townscape with the towering buildings and the hotel, isn't it, next door, and Slieve Donard, and it's got a magical feel about it, the whole place. And then you get on the course, and the first 3 holes sort of play along the coast, gently uphill, isn't it? And you climb up to the fourth tee, and then look back down and get the whole of that view. And I know, the views are not, the major part of our rankings, but given that they are still a decent percentage, this one would score as highly as anywhere for the visual appeal. And then some of the individual holes are just fantastic to play.
What do you have to do well to shoot a good score at Royal County Down? Apart from play very well?
You have to
go on a day when it's not windy. That would be one of the things.
Stay out of the bunkers. I mean, it's a well bunkered golf course, and you've got to know your lines on some of the shots where you can't necessarily see exactly where you're going, like the 9th and the 11th in particular, isn't it?
Can I ask you a question about blind shots? Because when we talked, Mike mentioned earlier about, I think it was Birkdale saying it's such a fair golf course. And when people talk about fair golf course, immediately the thing that goes off in my mind is that it's fair because you can see everything in front of you. But Royal County Down is one of those golf courses where you do have a few blind shots to encounter. Are they a good thing? Are they a bad thing? How do you feel about that sort of makeup and how it works in golf?
I've never been against them because I've played a lot of golf on quirky old golf courses where you get a lot of blind shots, and probably no designer would design a blind hole or shot these days, but playing them on some of these classic old links seems entirely in keeping. I think when you think of Prestwick and that blind par 3 straight over the hill, if you play that and you can't enjoy the experience of coming over the top and seeing where your ball is, I have no objection to them. I don't know what the other guys think.
I totally agree. It's the tradition of the game, isn't it? It's part of the stepping back in time. It's part of embracing what golf started off as, just going out there into the elements. I'm all for it.
Because if you're hitting somewhere that is then very quirky, I mean, you and I played at Painswick this year, which was about as quirky a golf course. Yeah, and so many blind shots, and I think you just had to embrace it for what it was. But you're hitting in some pretty funky places.
Interestingly, I did an interview with Sam Hutsby this week, and he played the Irish Open there, and he was saying he built his practice round around hitting to these marker posts, but then for the tournament they took all the marker posts out.
Oh no.
Really?
So he's suddenly looking at his notes and
Okay.
it's saying hit towards marker post and there is no marker
Oh no.
Oh, yeah.
So, you know, that shows you how there are obviously enough blind shots there for someone to hit it towards.
Now, can I ask you, if you were going to play Royal County Down tomorrow, would you want it to be dead calm, flat calm, or would you want there to be a wind?
I think I'd want it to be relatively calm because anything more than about a 2 or 3 club wind, and I know I'm not going to be scoring particularly well.
I think you want, when you play links golf, you want there to be some wind because it's
Yeah,
part of the experience.
absolutely, exactly, yeah.
But yeah, it can get. I've played it in really poor weather, and it's still, you know, men's test of golf, great challenge. But yeah, sometimes I think for ordinary golfers, then you don't want the wind to be up too much. Maybe like a 2 club wind help you on most holes.
Yeah. But you particularly want it on your approach shots, don't you? Because
Yeah.
it really makes you think.
Yeah.
On the drive, it can kill you, but on the approach shots, you've really got to take into account the extra club or the 1 club less or whatever. I think
and then you can start to play bump and run shots, try
exactly.
and take the wind out of play. But no, I think a bit of wind.
And maybe that explains why links courses feature so heavily in that top 10 list from our top 100. So a quick recap. So it's Sunningdale New at 10, Sunningdale Old at 9, Royal Portrush, Carnoustie, Royal Dornoch. Number 5 is Royal Birkdale, then it's Muirfield, Turnberry, the Old Course at St Andrews, and finally, in at number 1 is Royal County Down. Thank you very much for watching this video. If you've played any of the golf courses we've talked about here, then we'd love to hear what you have to say about them. But for now, from Worplesdon Golf Club, it's goodbye.